evening, and welcome to our Ohio State versus Wisconsin preview. Everybody, do us a big favor if you don't mind. You all know the deal. Smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Ring the bell. Get notified every time you go live. And of course, we'd like to know what you think about what we think down in the comment section below. What do you think the score is going to be? Ohio State versus Wisconsin. Does the Buckeyes cover? Does Luke Fickell have something up his sleeve for the Buckeyes? Will this be Luke Fickell's last game as head coach of Wisconsin? These are all topics that we're going to dive into. And of course, we're going to break it all down for you historically, statistically, and emotionally like no one else here on the OHIO podcast. Chris, here we go, man. Jump
Yeah,
around. Madison, Wisconsin. Tough place to play. Not a tough team to play.
I don't even know if it's a tough place to play right now, Eric. You know, what's tough is what the Wisconsin fans have had to endure this season. The first two games against opponents that we now find out are 2-4, no problem. But since week 3, this team is going to have to finish with literally 10 legitimate bowl teams. And of those 10, they're going to face at minimum 4 that are probably going to be playoff teams. That's brutal. That's brutal. And I feel for the Wisconsin fans. I even feel a little bit for the Wisconsin players. Most of all, I feel sorry for Coach Fickell because that is a schedule in a year that really is a year that you mentioned it is a measuring stick year for him, deciding whether he may be here next year or not. That's a little much to ask of anybody.
When we did our Wisconsin preview and I interviewed Rajiv from the Bucky Report, he said if this team could get to 6-6, Fickell's job would be saved, and they would be looking ahead to next year, and because next year's schedule is 100 times easier, and they would just hoping to get to next year so they could become a playoff team in 2026. I don't think 6-6 is in the cards.
I don't think that 4 wins is in the cards. As I look at this schedule that they close out the year with, Eric, I mean, you look at it starting with Ohio State this coming weekend. Then they have to go to Oregon. They got to play a very good Washington team. They have to play against Indiana, who, I mean, right now Indiana may be only 1B to Ohio State in the country. And they have to wrap up with Illinois and Minnesota, which are both legitimate playoff or bowl teams. Man, that's brutal.
With a capital B. Lowercase b Badgers taking on a capital B brutal end of their schedule, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Woo! That being said, Chris, let's dive into it, man. Let's get into it. So the game will be on CBS this Saturday at 3:30 p.m. The game will also be on the OHIO podcast Patreon page behind the paywall where you can listen and watch the game with yours truly, either myself, the Wild Man, Dr. Corey calling the game. He's the online voice of the Buckeyes. It's a lot of fun. Hang out in the chat with everybody else. You can do it there. You can do it on CBS as well, whatever you prefer. But that's where the game will be on. Chris, let's dive into the by the numbers here. Let's look at them. Ohio State leads the all-time series, 63 wins to 18 losses and only 5 ties. I'm kind of surprised that Ohio State's won that many and to that few losses, but here we are. Last loss to Wisconsin was all the way back in 2010. It was an 18-31 defeat. That was the last time Tressel, which Wisconsin was kind of Tressel's bugaboo.
they were a thorn in his side.
Yeah, and so last year Tressel coached, he got beat up pretty good against Wisconsin. Last win over the Badgers was 2 years ago, 24-10. That happened to be the last time we went to Madison, Wisconsin, was in 2023. Last meeting in Columbus was 2022. That was a 52-21 just beat down. I was there that day. That was a great game. Largest margin of victory actually came in 2014, Chris, in the Big Ten championship game. 12 gauge. First time he started, Cardale Jones, 59-0. The largest margin of defeat, that came in 1999. John Cooper took it on the chin. Barry Alvarez smoked him 42-17. Ohio State's longest win streak over Wisconsin is 21 games. That would have been one Woody Hayes and Earl Bruce from 1960 to 1980, 21 straight. Wisconsin's longest win streak over Ohio State is 3, 1913 to 1915. That was before we were born, buddy. Ryan
Yes,
Day.
yes, it was.
So was the longest win streak for me, by the way. I was born in '81. Ryan Day's record against Wisconsin is 4-0. Luke Fickell's record against Ohio State is 0-2. One of those losses happened in Cincinnati when he was the Bearcats head coach. Last 10 games, all Ohio State's way. The Buckeyes have a 10-game winning streak currently against the Badgers beginning in 2011, and a close one in Columbus, 33-29. That was a Luke Fickell led Ohio State team that won that
Mm-hmm.
one. That was the Hail Mary game.
Yes.
2012, 21-14 in Madison, also a close one. That was Urban's team that went into Madison, took down a pretty good Wisconsin team, 21-14. And then things just kind of snowballed, man. 2013, another close one in Columbus, 31-24. You had the 2014 Big Ten championship game in Indy, 59-0. 2 years later, in 2016, another close one, 7 points, but in Madison, 30-23. In 2017, Ohio State won 27-21 in another Big Ten championship game in Indy. That was yeah. And then 2019, you played them twice that year.
Mm-hmm.
You got them in Columbus 38-7, and then it was closer, but you got them again in Indy for the Big Ten championship game 34-21. If you're keeping track at home, 3 of these last 10 wins against the Badgers were in Big Ten championship games. 2022, Ohio State won 52-21 in Columbus, and in 2023, a 24-10 win in Madison. Chris, your thoughts on some of those historical numbers there, Ohio State against Wisconsin?
Well, historically, Wisconsin was a program in recent history that couldn't get over the hump but played us well.
Yeah.
I don't see this team as one that's going to play us well, Eric. I just I just don't. Um, we heard Ryan Day in his press conference today. He mentioned the fact that they are a well-coached team that plays hard. But playing hard and being good are two different things. And sadly, this team is just not good.
I think that's Ryan Day's way of being polite
Yeah,
and being kind, and at the same time nodding, giving a nod to Fick. I know it's not all you, bro.
it's
You
that
know,
it's that olive branch.
maybe.
I think the biggest question of this game is going to be: is Fick going to ride back on the Ohio State plane, or is he going to hang out in Wisconsin for a few more weeks?
Well, that's a great question. And his family's there, so obviously he's not going to jump on the plane on the way back and leave his family there. So, but I get what you're saying. I think what you're alluding to is, will this be the last one? If Ryan Day puts a beatdown of epic proportions on him, the Wisconsin fans might sound a lot like the Penn State fans from
And
a week
and
ago.
here's the thing, Eric. I don't think Ryan Day wants to do that to him, but I also believe that Buckeye Nation and the general sports media are waiting for that big offensive breakout game, and I really feel like this might end up being it.
Could be. It definitely could be. All right, Chris, let's go ahead and let you deliver the tail of the tape. Boy, oh boy. If you thought those
The,
numbers were interesting, just wait till you see these.
This is the most lopsided tail of the tape I think we have ever done, Eric. Uh,
It's up there.
Ohio State has the advantage across the board. Points per game, they're scoring 36.8. Wisconsin is scoring 15 and a half on average defenses. Ohio State's defense is not average, Eric. It is special. It's only given up 6.5 points a game. I don't know that Wisconsin sees the end zone. I don't know that Wisconsin sees past midfield. Their offense is really that bad. Rushing yards per game, Ohio State 160.7, Wisconsin 112.2. Passing yards per game, Ohio State 260.8, nearly 80, actually 80 and a half yards more than Wisconsin's anemic 180 yards passing per game. You look at the total yards per game, Ohio State 130 more yards on average per game more than Wisconsin, 421 and a half to 292 and a half. Third down conversion, Ohio State nailing it at 54%. This is a spot, 37 and a half is respectable, but it's not good. 90.3 is our conversion rate inside the red zone. 83.3 is the conversion rate for Wisconsin. Not a terrible number, but they don't see the red zone a lot's a big part of the problem. Then you go to our defense. We're only allowing 6.8 points per game. Wisconsin giving up a respectable 22.7. We allow 84 rushing yards per game. Wisconsin giving up a few more than that at 97 and a half. Passing yards per game, we only allow 145. They're allowing 220. And Eric, I'm going to go on record as saying maybe the closest thing they have seen to a quality quarterback would be the kid from Alabama. And he was still early on at that point. So, total yards per game, given up. Ohio State's only given up 229. Illinois accounted for a lot of that last week. 317 yards per game is the average given up by Wisconsin. Ohio State dominating on third down, only allowing 21.5% conversion rate. Wisconsin allowing 30%. And then Ohio State actually has a team where they are beating them in the turnover battle, as Ohio State has 1 turnover per game average, thanks to that big 3 turnover performance last week at Illinois. Luke Fickell in Wisconsin only averaging 0.7 turnovers per game. A lot to soak in there, Eric, and I threw this stat at you earlier. That doesn't even tell you just how bad this Wisconsin offense really is. Because if you look at this Wisconsin offense, Julian Sayin has 1,479 yards passing so far this season, I believe. This Wisconsin offense as a whole, rushing and throwing the ball, about 16.7, just over 1675 looks like. Man, that's only 200 yards per game more as a total offense over the course of 6 games. That's anemic, man. If we had in our rushing yards per game, we're just crushing these guys. I don't see a way that the Wisconsin can hang, man. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is going to be, if Wisconsin were to pull off an upset this week, it would be App State versus Michigan kind of upset.
Yeah,
That I just don't see that happening with a team like Ohio State who takes care of business the way they do, as consistently as they do. So I don't see that. What I can't wrap my mind around is how that Luke Fickell's in what, year 3,
yeah,
and they're regressing.
absolutely. And you talk about it. One of the biggest things, can you ever imagine a Wisconsin team only averaging 112 yards on the ground?
No.
Think back to the Barry Alvarez, the Chris years, the Brett Bielema years. The staple of that offense was the run.
Yeah.
And if they had a game where they were under, I think, 200, 220 yards a game, it was an embarrassment to them. And Now you're talking about 112 yards a game. And let's face it, a lot of that came in those first two games of the season when they played Miami of Ohio and Middle Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
They've been locked down. They have not scored 14 points since the Alabama game. It's been 14, 10, 10, and shut out last week versus the Hawkeyes. Now, the Hawkeyes are known to be solid defensively, but I reiterate, they are no Ohio State defensively this year. Not even close. I don't know that this team can score. Short of Ohio State shooting itself in the foot.
Right. Turnover, huge special teams play setting up the offense, something like that. Um, all of that being said, trying to get into Wisconsin's headspace right now going into a game like this, I have to imagine their fan base is seeing very little hope this weekend. Maybe they just rally themselves. They drink a few more uh, a few more adult beverages, pound a few more cheese curds, and they go in there and they just say, "We're just going to raise as much heck as we possibly can because we have more pride in ourselves than that." When Ohio State walks in,
They need to go out and go 1-0 this weekend, Eric, as a certain unemployed coach likes to say.
yeah, that didn't work out so well. So, uh, keeping to that mindset, I think Ohio State, obviously, you don't want to fall into a trap. Like this is the quintessential trap game now,
Yeah.
but there's so much I think kind of surrounding it. Um, and one of the things I believe Ryan Day and his coaching staff does so well is they don't allow these players to get comfortable. They're constantly trying to improve themselves, constantly trying to find ways to push the team. You're going into a bye week next week. And as Ryan Day pointed out, this is the third road trip in 4 games. And which is one of the reasons why going into the season, a lot of people said this might be a tough game for Ohio State on the road. 3 out of 4 weeks, and you end up in Madison, Wisconsin, which has got kind of that stigma to it of being a tough place to play. You all saw how many 7-point games there were in the last 10 that I pointed out. But this isn't Barry Alvarez's Wisconsin. This isn't even Paul Chryst Wisconsin, like you said. This is Luke Fickell's Wisconsin, and this is a Luke Fickell Wisconsin that is reeling. I
Now,
think Ohio State goes out there and dominates this football game and wins big. I just
that being
don't.
said, remember, Eric, this was not a very good team last year either. And they gave Oregon the scare of a lifetime last year.
In a very similar situation in their house. Yes.
So we have to be cognizant of that. However, I will say this, and again, I picked this up as we covered the Ryan Day press conference this afternoon. There's something special about how this team is bonding on the road. It almost sounds like he keeps these kids on lockdown on the road to avoid all the outside distraction.
Yeah. It's a business trip, right?
It really is. And I think that that approach to this gives Ohio State an edge.
Hmm. Well, we're pre-recording this, and I haven't scheduled or haven't been able to schedule an interview with our sister podcast, the Bucky Report from the College Huddle yet. So we're gonna go ahead and take a break here. Hopefully, this is where we slide in the interview with Rajiv. If I can lock down that time frame to record with him and get that interview in here. Um, but that's what we're going to effort to do right here. And then after that, Chris and I'll be back. We'll give you our score predictions. And I am joined now by my good buddy Rajiv from the Bucky Report. Welcome back to the OHIO podcast, Rajiv. Thanks for taking the time to do this with me, man.
Dude, always a pleasure to talk to you, Eric. Always a pleasure. It's going to be a tough week for Badgers, but happy to talk about it.
All right. Well, let's start there. Let's start with the attitude of the fan base season so far. I tend gently follow the program through Fickle, with the connection there. And I'm very interested to get the pulse of the fan base going into this game. What can you tell me?
2 words: anger and apathy. That's pretty much where we are right now. I, like many Badger fans, was very pleased with the Fickle hire at the time, right? I mean, it was our athletic director taking a big swing, a guy that had had a lot of success at Cincinnati, coached at Ohio State, like all these things lined up well. We were set up for success, and things just pretty much have regressed every single year under Luke Fickle's leadership. So when we lost to Maryland a couple weeks ago, 27-10, that was pretty much when things started to turn pretty negative. We heard Fire Fickle chants at the stadium. And then we have a bye week. We go to Michigan and we play a little bit better. Like, okay, we lost, but it wasn't a drubbing. It was like we were in it until late, and we could see some things. We started our third string quarterback. Maybe there's some positivity there. And then it all came down to the Iowa game, where we had spent, basically, Luke Fickle had said the entire offseason, the focus was that 42-10 loss. They did 42 push-ups every practice. There was all these, the number 42 was built in around the program. And the transfer portal additions were basically all because of that game. We were not going to let ourselves get beat up on the defensive line anymore. We did strengthen that area. And instead we had an even worse game against Iowa. And all it shows is that Luke Fickle has simply been unable to get this team to perform and be disciplined and play hard and play 60 minutes. Yes, he's had injuries, right? We've lost our starting quarterback the last 3 years. That counts. But the loss to Iowa was indefensible. I mean, there was nothing about that even resembled a Big Ten football team. We were one of the most consistent programs in all of the country for the last 20, 25 years. And ever since he's gotten here, it's just gone the other direction. I am now very much in the camp of it's time to let this man go. I am done with Luke Fickle. I don't want him at my school anymore. And I can say that is the sentiment of most Badger fans. I'm not going to say all, but there's a large percentage that are ready for him to get fired now. I don't think there's anyone who believes he should be here past the season. The question is, do we fire him now or do we fire him at the end of the season? But yeah, the fan base is angry, apathetic. It's ugly. I was at the Iowa game, and it was one of the worst games I've ever seen as a Badger fan. And we were the doormat of the Big Ten. We're the by far the worst team in the conference, and that is an unacceptable position for a team that had more wins than was top 5 for wins in the entire country over a 20-year period. And you just can't do that.
A good friend of mine, John Kennedy, said the only time you ever root against your team is when you need to get the coach fired. Is that where we're at almost here?
That's not what I'm never going to root against the team. I mean, I would love for us to find a way to beat Ohio State. That ain't going to happen. But no, like he's already made the bet. Like it's even if he miraculously wins a couple of big games, like the state of the program is so dire at this point that it's awful. It's untenable. And there might be Badger fans that do want him to lose, because I mean, a lot of Badger fans are saying, let's let him get, destroyed the next 2 weeks when we play Ohio State and Oregon, and then fire him during the bye week, right? Let him take the licks for the next 2 weeks before we bring in an interim, and we have a couple weeks to decide who that is. And yeah, I mean, Camp Randall was basically empty after the end of the third quarter. I sat there until the very end. I did a podcast up in the press box, and it was absolutely brutal. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I can't believe what's happened to this program. It is an epic fall from grace.
Is it an identity crisis?
Yes, very much so. Like Luke, and we were talking on our post-game show on Locked On Badgers, and it was about like, why has this gone so wrong? And one of the issues is that he ripped sort of like the identity out of the team, that culture of being power football, running the ball. Like as soon as he hired Phil Longo and tried the air raid, everything just kind of went to crap. And, recruiting in state, right? Like keeping guys in state. That was all part of the Wisconsin brand. It was, get these big offensive linemen from in state, keep as many of our top recruits as we could, and play power football, know what you're good at. We were getting 3 stars guys and constantly developing them. And that's not happening. We're not seeing development. We're not seeing growth. So all the players that were on the team last year are playing worse this year. Like it's honestly, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know how it happened, but I know it has to end. It has to end. We need to start over, because this isn't working. I mean, look what Penn State did. Penn State You
Yeah.
know, they realized they had a guy in James Franklin that was never going to win a title because he couldn't win the big game. He loses 3 games, 2 to really bad teams, and they just cut the cord and are happy to pay the $50 million buyout. We have a $25 million buyout, and there's people thinking that the school might not pay it at the end of the year, and he might be here till next year, which is absurd.
Okay. So let's I mean, obviously that's the topic. That
We can
everybody,
dive into the game, though.
yeah, let's dive into the game a little bit
Yeah.
here. So, Ohio State defensively has looked much better than anybody thought they were going to this year, going into the season. It's hard to believe when you had the number one defense in the country that they could get better, but under Matt Patricia, that's exactly what has happened to this Ohio State defense. And I was looking at the Wisconsin offense, and I know that they've got a backup quarterback playing. I know that has a lot to do with it. They look pretty anemic offensively.
Mhm.
There are a lot of Ohio State fans who think this should be shut out this week. What can this offense do to try to move the football against Ohio State? What are they going to try to do?
Yeah,
Maybe that's
yeah,
the better
yeah,
question
for
here.
sure. So the first question is we don't know who's going to play quarterback. Hunter Simmons is our third string quarterback to start the season. So Billy Edwards went down week 1, tried again in Maryland game, played 1 play, got hurt again. So he's out indefinitely. Danny O'Neal was our backup who played against Middle Tennessee State, played against Alabama, but he struggled quite a bit against Maryland. And then against Michigan, we put in Hunter Simmons, who's our third string guy, who has a stronger arm than Danny O'Neal, a little better quarterback. I wanted him to play. He looked horrendous against Iowa. Threw 3 picks in the first quarter, 3 turnovers in the first quarter. It was awful performance. So at this point, we don't know if Danny O'Neal is going to play or Hunter Simmons. If Danny O'Neal plays, he is a weapon with his legs. He's a very mobile quarterback who can do some things differently there. Doesn't have a very strong arm, but he's got some plays with swagger, plays with confidence. So what we're going to try to do is run the ball because the one player who played well against Iowa was Dylan Jones, our starting running back. The offensive line is pretty porous at this point, but at least now that group has been playing together for a few weeks. So our starting 5 is sort of set. We got our starting center back last week. So the O-line theoretically has gotten a little bit better throughout the season, but we're also going up against Ohio State. So can anyone run the ball against Ohio State? I don't know. We're going to try that. We do have one good wide receiver in Vinny Anthony. We've got some experience out there. Jaden Ballard, who you guys certainly know.
Yeah, how's he doing?
He's okay. He's just not that much of a weapon. We kind of understand why he wasn't getting on the field at Ohio State. I think that's clear, right? His speed is there, but his route running and his ability to just get open is not there. And his hands are not the best. They're okay, but Vinny Anthony's our top receiver. So depending on who plays quarterback, we're going to try to run the ball, yes, and we will try to – Jeff Grimes is going to try to mix up as much offensive play calling as he can. You're going to see a lot of misdirection, jet sweeps, creative plays that haven't really worked, but we're going to keep trying them. The best drive we had all season was the first drive against Michigan. We ran the ball down Michigan's throat. For one drive, we scored the first 7 points of the game, and I was like, holy cow, we're going to beat the Wolverines. And then that was all we did. Because they decided they're going to shut that down, and Hunter Simmons really couldn't get it going. So we're going to try that. I think we will take some deep shots because we've got Vinny Anthony. Whether or not that's successful with the guy like Downs back there, I don't think that's going to happen, but we're going to see. But yeah, can we run the ball at all? If we can, we might score 7, 10, 13 points. If we can't, a shutout is a legitimate possibility.
Okay. On the other side of the ball, defense, a strong defense was always one of the calling cards of Wisconsin, and it seems like it's been pretty leaky this year. What's going on the defensive side?
So interestingly enough, the defensive line did get better, right? We went from having 1 300-pounder to now having 10. We have had a fairly decent run defense. Iowa exposed that a little bit, but I think a lot of that was, to be honest, the first quarter we looked so bad, we turned the ball over so much that it almost looks like the team kind of quit and didn't really try. And so we could have been a little bit better defensively against the run. I think we will. We frustrated Justice Haynes. We didn't stop him. He said 120 yards, but we held him under his average. Like we did frustrate him. He had a couple big runs, but we definitely bottled him up a little bit to where Bryce Underwood had to throw the ball to clean things up. So we'll do that. Where we have issues with is our pass defense. decent pass rushers that hopefully can get home better than last year. But if we're not getting home against an Ohio State offensive line, we leave it up to our guys in the backfield, which creates some issues. We've got Ricardo Hallman at cornerback, who's not having a very good year again. Our starting safety, leader of the defense, Preston Zachman, is hurt. He's still in a boot. He's not going to play. That's been probably the number one issue in our defensive secondary. We're just unable to really stop good quarterbacks. So Julian Saint's going to have a pretty good day, similar to the day that Ty Simpson had, similar to the day that Bryce Underwood had, similar to the day that Malik Washington had. So all these good quarterbacks are going to pick apart our secondary, unless the best player on our defense right now, Mason Reiger, our defensive end, if he can get home and frustrate Sayin, get him off the spot, hit him a couple times, maybe we can force him into some bad decisions. The front seven is our strength. That is our strength. So we hopefully can shut down the run game and maybe get some luck and some good play out of our secondary.
I need to know what in the world you guys did to the Big Ten schedule makers. My gosh, the rest of your schedule is a nightmare. Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota.
It's honestly like, I mean, Badger fans have been saying for a couple of weeks now, are we going to get another win? Like, we might not get another win, Eric. Like, legitimately 2-10 is on the table at this point because we're so bad. And also because the schedule is absolutely brutal. I mean, up until Oregon lost, we were going to play the number 1 and number 2 teams in back-to-back weeks. So, yeah, it's bad. And then we have Indiana coming. We're going to Indiana. We're going to Oregon. We've looked at Washington as a potential, like maybe we can beat them, but the way that Damon Williams is playing, not interested in playing him. Minnesota is truthfully our Super Bowl at this point. Just win the axe back. It's going to be hard. We're going out on the road to Minnesota. We're not going to win that game, but we can hope. That's the one thing we can hope for. But yeah, it's been brutal from the beginning, right? Miami of Ohio and Middle Tennessee State. Those are our 2 wins. Those are our 2 easy games. Ever since then, it's been gauntlet after gauntlet. We didn't have the Purdues, the Northwesterns, the Michigan States of the world on our schedule like many other teams have, which could have been potential wins and avenues to maybe get to 6. But as it stands now, we're just trying to get 1. And it's going to just be, can we get 1 more? Because this is, yeah, man, I tell you, I've been a Badger fan since 1999, and this is the lowest I've ever felt. Luckily, our basketball team is going to surprise people and be really good this year. But I love
it. That's the one thing I used to hear that from Indiana fans so much, like wait till basketball, and then they would be really bad at basketball too. But I digress. I think let's circle back to the beginning of our conversation. Yeah. Who are some names that fans are talking about that you've heard maybe linked as potential next opportunity coach to jump
in? So the first name that pops up is the last name that was there before Luke Fickell got hired, which was Jim Leonhard. He was our defensive coordinator. He was our interim head coach after Paul Chryst got fired. He is now coaching defensive backs for the Denver Broncos. He is not really known as a recruiting type, so he doesn't love that piece of it, but I know he could hire people. There's a lot of different things you can do. But it was a good choice at the time to get Luke Fickell. But there were a vocal minority in the Badger fan base at that time who said, no, Jim Leonhard is the guy to keep our floor. His defenses were always, that was why our defenses was so good. He was our defensive coordinator for years, and he runs a magnificent scheme, a 3-4 that is very, very high pressure, high aggression. And he knows how to coach defense. The guy came to Wisconsin as a walk-on and then played 10 years in the NFL, went to multiple Pro Bowls. He's incredible. So that's number 1. That's who I want, and there's a lot of Badger fans who want that. There are people who are looking at more of an experienced head coach, right? So certainly a guy like Matt Campbell comes up, but he might be in the Penn State world. Jason Eck is the New Mexico head coach, who I personally like because he's a Wisconsin guy. So there's a name there. Then people have floated around the idea of Will Stein, the offensive coordinator at Oregon. So whether we go with, or Sean Lewis, who's the head coach of San Diego State, also an ex-Badger, I think the number one thing is most fans are like, we need to sort of restore Badger identity, which means go with the Badger, go with someone who knows the culture, who can bring back that toughness, the discipline, the power football that has disappeared entirely under Luke Fickell. And that is the one thing you're always craving what you don't have, right? So whether that's the right idea or not, I don't know, but it's what we as a lot of Badger fans want because the identity's been ripped away. So we need to get that back. So I think you're likely going to see someone that is an ex-Badger, that is someone who's got ties to the program. A lot of the alumni right now are furious with what's happening. There's a lot of players who are upset about it. I mean, it's pretty dire. So you got to bring that culture back together, and that's why I think you're going to have likely a Badger. So I could see Jim Leonhard, Sean Lewis, Jason X, someone like that. My top choice is Jim Leonhard. He had a bit of a falling out with our athletic director when he didn't get the job. So there's a lot of people calling for the athletic director's job as well, which I'm one of those people. So you could see a Fickell and Chris McIntosh exit with a Jim Leonhard resurgence potentially. But the truth is, with the $25 million buyout, there is a good amount of people that believe that this administration will not fire Luke Fickell, and he will get next year as well, which I think is incomprehensible after what he's done to our program. But you never know. I mean, we don't have the deep pockets like Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan have. We don't have a university administration who puts as much emphasis on athletics as your school does. And so we might not be able to foot that buyout, right? I think that there's a lot more revenue loss by not doing it because the stadium is going to start to empty out. You're going to have a lack of donors. I'm not donating to the university next year, and I'm an annual donor to Athletic Department. I will not do it if Luke Fickell's our coach. I will not. And I feel like a lot of people are in that boat. So they're going to lose money if they don't fire him. But yeah, so for me, it's Jim Leonhard. You got to kick the tires there. He was the guy that was going to take over, and he's done nothing but do good things. We're at Wisconsin and wherever he's been. So I want him back.
Speaking of returning to that culture, Barry Alvarez is knocking on the door of 80 years old. Has he been around the program, or has he said anything about what's going on?
Yeah, so Barry Alvarez hired, I mean, he basically is the reason Chris McIntosh is our athletic director, right? So Chris McIntosh took over for Barry Alvarez. Chris McIntosh played offensive line in the late 90s under Barry Alvarez, and then sort of was groomed by Barry to take over the athletic department. So he is backing Chris McIntosh, who is backing Luke Fickell. So in a way, Barry, the only thing that Barry Alvarez has really said recently, yes, he's certainly made his feelings known. He understands the product is bad, that needs to get better. After the Maryland game where people were booing and yelling fire Fickell, he was very upset. He went on a radio show and said, that we had some spoiled fans. They shouldn't be doing that. A lot of us fired back and said, no. Like, we're allowed to do that when the product on the field is this bad. Like, fans have a right to express their voice. No need to be disrespectful, of course, but fire Fickell is not a disrespectful chant. It's, hey, we got to cut the cord here. So he's been fairly silent on, Luke Fickell's performance, but there are sort of undertones of he understands that the identity is a bit gone. A change needs to be made, but he does back Chris McIntosh, and that is one of the issues. Like, Chris McIntosh is a problem, and you guys certainly know about when you have an athletic director who's not getting it done. Like, you got to make changes. So I think that's going to have to happen soon.
Interesting. There's a lot of Buckeye fans who would just say, you know what, let's fire him and let's bring him back to Columbus, Ohio, and he can be an analyst here and maybe the future defensive,
pay him a lot of money so that the buyout can be mitigated. That would be really great, because that's a thing, right? It's a monthly check that he gets, that if he gets another job, it gets mitigated down. So if Ohio State can take him and pay him a few $100,000 a month, great. We'll gladly fire him.
I think we can find something. I think we can find a partnership there, Rajiv. The OHIO podcast, the Bucky Report. Let's make this happen, and we'll get him back here to Columbus. And I floated out the idea that if and when he's fired, which and I believe it's going to be sooner rather than later, because there was a rumor that that one of the recruits was told by Luke Fickell that I'm not going to be here in a year. And that recruit kind of told some people that. So that led me to think, okay, well, if that's the case, what would be the best outcome for Luke? He obviously is going to land on his feet somewhere. He could end up at Notre Dame. He's got ties with Marcus Freeman. He could end up with the New England Patriots. He's best buds with Vrabel. He could go back to Columbus, Ohio, and be an analyst there, and maybe be the replacement for Larry Johnson, a defensive line coach, and be co-defensive coordinator with Matt Patricia. And if Matt Patricia gets another job, there's your defensive
Mm-hmm.
coordinator.
Yep.
And while he's waiting, maybe the Cincinnati job opens back up, and he goes back down I-71 to Cincinnati, where he's the all-time winningest coach for the Bearcats, and they would welcome him back with open arms. I think he's definitely going to land on his feet somewhere and be happy in what he's doing. But I'll be honest with you, Rajiv, this might be one of the most surprising failures
Mm.
in my that I can recently remember. I thought when he went to Wisconsin, I went, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Not
We all thought that. Like we all had that same thought. Like look at what he did at Cincinnati. Of course he's going to come here with that Ohio State pedigree and he's going to turn Wisconsin into a big time. I said publicly, I said I feel like we're going to be the next Clemson. The next team that like went from here, get Dabo Swinney, and all of a sudden they're like winning national titles. Like that's what I was hoping we could become. That's what a lot of people thought. Now he hasn't had the best luck, right? When you lose your starting quarterback 3 straight years to injury, that is a big problem. Every year he's been here, he's lost his starting quarterback. We haven't had his starting quarterback play the whole season. So that certainly did him no favors. But all the other things that have happened, the lack of preparation week in and week out, we say he's been outcoached. He's been outcoached. It's about he's a CEO type coach. He's not really into the weeds too much. And he's made bad hires, right? Some of his coordinators haven't worked out. He insisted on bringing in Mike Tressel as his defensive coordinator, which was a mistake, I think, and he's been okay. But if we heard there was an opportunity for him to keep Jim Leonhard if Jim Leonhard was defensive coordinator, but he wanted to bring Tressel in, so Jim Leonhard's like, okay, I'm out. Now, how much truth to that we don't know. I don't know how it would have been with Fickell and Leonhard there at the same time, but the coordinators haven't worked. So there's a lot of failures under Luke Fickell. And I agree with you. I think he'll land on his feet. I don't think he's going to go get a head coaching job right away. I think he's going to go back as an analyst, maybe even an unpaid analyst, because Wisconsin's going to pay a salary for quite a while. So he can do that. He can kind of get back on his feet, get back and do it again, and then work his way up as a DC potentially, or maybe an FCS or something, low FBS head coaching job.
If he wanted to be a head coach, he would be a head coach in the MAC tomorrow.
Sure.
I mean, there's anyone except for maybe Toledo and Bowling Green, maybe Ohio. They're pretty set on their coach.
Yeah.
Any one of those D1 MAC Ohio schools would take him tomorrow.
Yeah.
Miami, Akron, to Kent State, they would take him in a heartbeat. And then if one of those other jobs opened up at Toledo, Bowling Green, where Eddie George is at, or Ohio, I think that he would be one of the first people they would call because of his Ohio ties.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if that's what he truly wants to do, I think he can. But this has been just an amazing story, and unfortunately for you, Rajiv, it's been kind of a bad one in this case. But here we are. We're going to play this game regardless. It's on the schedule, so it has to happen. Give me your score prediction for this game, Rajiv.
It's pretty sad. My score prediction is 49-3. I really like the line is 26, which I think is crazy.
I said hammer the over to everybody.
God, I mean, come on, dude. Like we don't have the only thing is I've heard there's gonna be weather potentially, some rain, which might slow down Ohio State, but come on, nothing slows down Ohio State. We don't have the defense, and we're not playing with any. That's the thing. We're not playing with passion right now. It's not like we don't have good players. We do. It's that Luke Fickell's not getting them ready to play. So I can see a situation where we don't score a single point. I put 3 up there because I feel like maybe we'll luck into something and we'll get a field goal. But I mean, we absolutely could get, I'll tell you one thing, there's no chance we're scoring over 10 points. There is just no chance. Like we haven't scored in Big Ten play. We're averaging 6 points a game in Big Ten play.
Yeah.
That is
I have 42-3. So you actually have another touchdown over me. Maybe you're closer to. It's one of those things where you're so close to it. You're like, and I'm like, but it is what it is.
It's bad, man. It's really look. You guys always kind of kick our ass, so that's fine. Like Ohio State beats a lot of people, but we've been in situations in the past where we've been able to compete for a little while. A couple years ago in Madison, we took it to the fourth quarter when you guys said that was the year you had Harrison, but I forgot who your quarterback was at that point. But yeah,
Was that 2023?
yeah,
So that was Kyle McCord.
McCord, yeah, the McCord season it was a really good game, 7-point game going into the fourth quarter, and that was Fickell's first season, but he was 7-5 that year. But yeah, we've just had so many losses, no signature wins since Luke Fickell's been there. He's going to leave the Wisconsin program with 0 signature wins in 3 seasons, and I'll tell you, if he's the coach of my team next year, my podcast is going to be a pretty angry place to watch because I will be furious. I will be absolutely furious. This needs to end so we can start over, right? The faster we end this, the faster we get going.
Rajiv, if that happens, lean into it because sometimes anger and vinegar does well for the ratings. So just lean into it, brother.
I just want to be able to watch my team and be excited about it. And right now, it feels like a chore to watch this team, and it's pretty bad. I mean, we had a Locked On, but we had a whole meetup, right? Or the Locked On Badgers podcast, Bucky Report. We got to meet with a ton of fans. That's the best part about it, was seeing us and the fans and hanging out, drinking beers. But we actually went into that stadium as a group and saw the worst game I think I've ever seen in my entire fandom. So yeah, that's where we are right now.
Well, tell everybody where they can catch you, Rajiv. You do great work, my man.
Yeah, so the Bucky Report podcast is on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm also a regular contributor on Locked On Badgers, which is also on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at Rajiv Badgers for plenty of angry Badger takes.
Well, Rajiv, I would say enjoy the game. I don't know that I mean, so I'll just say this. I hope you get your wish.
There you go.
How about that?
There you go.
Thanks, Rajiv. Appreciate you, man. All right, Chris. Here we go, man. Time to put our money where our mouth is. Last time I looked at the spread, it was like
27 and a half.
It came down a point.
It was 27 and a half, I think, when I got in.
Okay, so, I thought last I saw it was 28 and a half. So
it could be up to 28 and a half now. That was when the spreads first popped. It was 27 and a half, I believe.
Let's see what the old Google machine.
But either way, I'm going to tell you right now,
26 and a half. It actually came down another
Ohio
point.
State to cover.
Well, and that's what I was about to say was I think Ryan, outside of Ohio, Ryan Day has won against the spread every week. Against Texas.
Yeah, it was basically a pick'em game against Texas.
Mm-hmm. Grambling was a 70-0 win. That was like at 40, high 40s. The Ohio game, he didn't, he failed to cover. And then so far Washington and back
Minnesota
home against Minnesota, and then on the road against Illinois, he's covered against all 3. This feels very much like I think he covers, especially at 26 and a half. I could see Ohio State winning this game 40-something to nothing type of.
And that's actually where I'm at.
Okay. So give me your score prediction. How you think you get there?
I'll tell you what. I think that for me, I like Ohio State in this one. I like them huge. I like them 45-0. I don't think this is a good offense. I think we've seen, you talked about it, Luke Fickell and this team are regressing, where Ohio State just keeps chugging forward and getting better and better each and every week, both offensively and defensively, and even on special teams, with the exception of our punting unit. To me, I don't think there's any. I think maybe Wisconsin gets an early stop, and after that, I think the Buckeyes kick it into cruise control and just absolutely dominate this game. I got it 45-0.
Okay. I think getting shutouts, especially in conference play, is incredibly difficult. Even though I definitely can see this game being a shutout, I'm going to go ahead and give them 3, and I'm going to say Ohio State wins 42-3, which is still well over the spread here. 42 against that defense is still pretty good. I think Wisconsin defensively, you saw the defensive stats; they're not terrible.
No.
But you see what they did against Iowa, and you think, is Ohio State better than Iowa? Are we a touchdown better than Iowa? Oh yeah. Yeah. So I'll go 42-3 as my score. Give Fick a field goal at some point in the game. They luck into a field goal. Maybe it's at the beginning of the game. Matty P kind of lays off and sees what they're doing offensively, and then they drive down the field, get inside the 30, and get a field goal or something. And then he shuts the door the rest of the way. But I feel like this is going to be a game that by 6 o'clock we're watching the backups, the second and third stringers, and we're already contemplating what's going to be happening against Notre Dame and USC.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I just, I gotta tell you, I feel, I'm such a big Luke Fickell fan. I feel so bad for what's about to happen to him. Not just
It's rough,
in the,
dude. It's
not
rough.
just in the game, but as this season progresses, I, I don't see a way where Luke Fickell is still the head coach at Wisconsin next season. I just can't get there.
I want you all to pay very close attention before the game and after the game when Ryan Day and Luke Fickell are together. The handshake after the game will be very cordial. I don't think there'll be a ton said. I think it'll be a handshake and a head nod and a, you know, good game. I think Ryan Day will take the opportunity to say to Luke, you always will have a home here. And that'll
Yeah,
be all he'll have to say.
and if you look, you can't deny that while he's always been successful, Ryan Day's been at his best when he surrounded himself with former Buckeyes.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Some have argued with me that Luke Fickell might end up with Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. I could see that.
Or somewhere else.
Or with Marcus Freeman at another school. Are you suggesting? Um,
No, you're suggesting.
I'm not suggesting that. I am reporting that. Big difference. But I just feel like at this point, after that big of a train wreck, Fick needs to come home and regroup.
It is. It's time to come home and regroup. And Eric, right now, you're looking at the Ryan Day becoming the next Nick Saban. He's going to
Mm-hmm.
be the guy to take the assistant coaches who became coaches too early, or got in over their heads, or faced a challenge for one reason or another. He's going to take those coaches and make them reclamation projects and get them their second opportunity. He could do for Fickell what was done for, you know, Steve Sarkisian by Nick Saban.
It's a good example. Um, here's my suggestion for Luke Fickell, and this is kind of head in the clouds and Corey's suggestion mixed together here. Fick gets fired. Ryan Day brings him on as an analyst for the rest of the season, however long that is, even if it's just during the playoffs. And with the idea that he is the future defensive line coach and assistant DC. Um, it's also good because if let's just say Matt Patricia gets another head coaching offer,
Mm-hmm.
which he'll get some offers, by the way. And he's like, "Yep, it's my time to go back and try this again, whether that's in the NFL or out of college, and I'm going to be a head coach." And now you have a DC position open. Luke Fickell can slide right into that. He's done it before.
Especially if it
He
happens
was
within the
he was
next,
defensive coordinator when we won a national championship in 2014. People
yeah,
forget that.
and especially if it happens within the next year or two before, James might be ready to step into that role.
Yeah. If that doesn't happen and Larry doesn't retire and he stays on as an analyst or whatever he's going to do with this defensive staff, he's sitting there waiting for the Cincinnati job to open back up. And he goes back down I-71 again to where he had his greatest success, and he coaches the Bearcats for the rest of his career. They're in the Big 12. So there's a chance to get back to the CFP if you win that
Mm-hmm.
conference. The Bearcats are having a really good season so far. I don't anticipate the Bearcats getting to the playoffs this year. I do think they're going to run into some teams that can and will beat them, and they'll be on the outside looking in. But they're going to be going to a very nice bowl game at 9-3, 8-4, and having the best year they've had with their head coach. But if he can't maintain that, especially with Luke Fickell available down the road, I can see Cincinnati pulling the trigger there and
Absolutely.
saying, we're not going to retain him. Let's go back and get our all time winningest coach in Luke Fickell. So, Luke Fickell, I think, will have options available to him here in the state of Ohio. Let's not forget, any of these MAC schools in Ohio would take him in a heartbeat. Any of them.
Do you think, and I'm sure it could happen too. Let's not forget, if maybe he doesn't have a spot where he wants to come back in at Ohio State, if for some reason the bad blood still exists, I don't think it does with Gene Smith gone, but if for some reason he says I don't want to necessarily come back to Ohio State, I'll bet Eddie could find a spot for him.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. There was overlap between Eddie and
Yeah,
Luke in the 90s. They were
yeah,
they were teammates. So, yeah. Like I said though, he's going to land at someplace nice if he wants it.
yes.
Ohio State, Notre Dame, he's going to have options available. He could also say I'm going to take a year off and see what opens up. And again, something, I mean, let's think of some of the jobs that might open up that he could possibly be in the running for. Pitt,
The
West
Browns need
Virginia.
a head coach, and they don't have any expectations.
There's no way. Luke is a college guy.
Yes, he
Oh,
is.
there's another option. New England. Vrabes.
Yeah, Mike would bring him on a heartbeat. I guarantee it.
He's gonna land on his feet and he's gonna be fine. He's actually probably gonna be better than where he's at right now. He might not be making as much money, but he's gonna be better than where he's at right now.
He'll
As
age a
far
lot slower wherever he lands.
Yeah, no kidding, right? So, but we're all talking like this is all bound to happen if Ohio State goes out there and beats them, which
It is.
I am 99.999% sure that's what's going to happen. So, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch regardless. It's going to be very interesting to watch. Let us know what your score prediction is below. We want to know what you think about what we think. Where do you think Luke Fickell ends up if he does indeed get fired? Do you think he'll end up with Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman, with Ryan Day here at Ohio State? Will he take a year off? Does he end up going and coaching in New England in the NFL? Like he's got a lot of options. Where do you think he'll end up landing? And of course, if you want to watch the game with us this upcoming Saturday, you can do so. Make sure you're subscribed to our Patreon channel. It's right down there below. There's three options. There's a free option, and then there's the paid options. The paid options are $5 a month and $20 a month. The free option basically gets you one message board and a few articles and maybe a video or two. The paid option gets you everything. The $5 option gets you everything. The $20 option gives you everything plus drawings for big prizes every single month. So make sure you're a part of the OHIO Podcast Patreon page. Go down, do it. Get signed up today. Say, hey, I don't have $5 right now. Go get signed up with the free account right now, so that you're there and you're a part of the emailers that we can send out to let you all know what's going on, because things are changing every week. It seems like here at the OHL Podcast now, every week something new is going down and happening. So that way you can be in the know and you can be a part of it. All right, guys. Anything else, Chris?
You know, there would be a major advantage for Marcus Freeman if Luke Fickell went to Notre Dame. He could run around like this to remind Marcus that he does need one more guy on the field.
One more guy on defense. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
Luke can count the 11.
I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's true. All right, guys. One more slam from Chris on Marcus Freeman on our way out, even though we're not playing Notre Dame. So it is what it is. He can't help himself. He's got a love affair with Marcus Freeman. You all take care. I hope you enjoyed this preview. We will see you all Saturday. We'll see you all Saturday. Don't forget the Buckeye ladies tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern. TG. Mika's been taking some time off, guys, with some family stuff. Hopefully she'll be returning soon, guys. But until then, TG's been finding places to people to fill in. I was last week. Sean was one time. So we'll make sure TG's got a
Will
running
you wear
partner.
your wig next time, Eric?
Which one?
I don't know. Just throw on your wig, your thong, maybe a nice, pretty purple dress. and
Stop
you'll be
it.
all right.
Get out of here. All right, guys. We'll take care till next time. Be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen High with all your heart. You all know what to do. OH.
I-O.
Go Bucks.